We're talking SEC football here on Southeastern 14. I'm Chase Robinson. We're going to dive into the Oklahoma Sooners today, one of the newcomers to the SEC. But first, got to remind you about Bet Online, your number one source for all of your summer sports this season, from MLB to golf, NBA, and NHL playoff stats. You can get all the latest stats, news, and scores available to follow your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head over to the website or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet online, where the game starts. So, Tyler, SEC starts this fall for the Oklahoma Sooners, and I've got to ask, what's the excitement level at right now, just for the fan base, for those of you who spend time covering? I know you're on the radio there on KREF, covering Oklahoma there. In Sooner country, what's the vibe like right now, getting ready to head in the SEC?
I mean, just all excitement. I still remember the day that it was leaked that OU was going to the SEC, and at first it was whoa, because it came out of nowhere. But since then, man, it's been looking forward. It's been celebration. I mean, just think about it this way, and here's how I try to describe to people who have already been in the SEC how big of a deal this is for OU. First off, OU played 7 11 a.m. games last year. Out of the 12 regular season games they played last year, OU played 7 11 a.m. games. That's not what big-time programs get to do. I look back at the past couple of years, and I think Auburn played 2 11 a.m. games last year. Auburn wasn't a great team. Mississippi State played 3 11 a.m. games last year. Mississippi State wasn't some great team. So you're about to have better kickoff times because people here are tired of 11 a.m. games, man. Like you wouldn't. I mean, it's bad because they played so many 11 a.m. games and against, a bunch of basketball schools. Kansas comes to town and they bring like 75 fans. Iowa State comes to town, they bring about 50 fans. Baylor comes to town and they bring about 40 fans. So last year, your conference home slate was Iowa State, was UCF, West Virginia, and TCU. And no offense to those schools, but look who you're going to play in conference, just in conference the next 2 years. Tennessee comes to town, Alabama, South Carolina, LSU, Ole Miss, Auburn, Missouri. I am a season ticket holder, and from a season ticket holder aspect, the home games, the opponents, and the kickoff times, dude. I mean, that's a long way to say everyone here is just so jacked up. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and it is exciting to welcome in a program like Oklahoma to the conference. I mean, you think of all the history, the tradition, with Oklahoma and Texas both entering the conference. I mean, this is a big-time program who has won some big-time games, coming to play in really what a lot of people would say the premier college football conference. I think this is a perfect fit.
Yeah, I mean, just for what OU is all about, it does seem like the ideal fit, because back in 2010, it felt like the Pac-10, I guess it was still the Pac-10 at that time. That was really close to happening, Chase. That was really close to happening, where OU and Texas were going to go to the Pac-10. And we look back at things now and say, man, really glad that didn't happen. And then the rumor really since then is, okay, well, if OU ever leaves the Big 12, which conference is it going to be? And for whatever reason, the thought here was always the Big 10. Leadership here might prefer the Big 10 and academically what they bring to the table. But everyone's looking at each other right now and saying, thankfully, it's the SEC, because you just fit in culturally with this conference better than any other conference that's out there. The money that's there. And I think the exciting thing, not just for OU and Texas coming in the league, but the exciting thing for the SEC is, think of where the OU-Texas rivalry ranks in terms of best college football rivalries. I mean, it's got the most unique setting in the sport. It's amazing, man. And I know I'm a little bit biased on that, but you have a game that's smack dab in the middle of the State Fair of Texas. One half of the stadium is from Texas. One half of the stadium is from Oklahoma. It's beautiful. So, yeah, the SEC gets two traditional powers. They also get one of the best rivalries in college football as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, that is. So kind of diving in now to the Oklahoma football team, just based off the spring, and I know you can only pick up so much from a spring game, but offensively, it looks like Oklahoma is going to kind of pick up where they left off in recent years offensively, and the numbers they've been able to put up.
Deion Burks is a star, man. And I think some people will remember his name coming out of Purdue in the transfer portal, but he wasn't as celebrated as, some other receivers that were out there. And Evan Stewart going to Oregon. Texas got a big time receiver from Alabama who made a crazy catch in the Iron Bowl last year. But Deion Burks, I think, has a chance to be absolutely one of the best transfer portal wide receivers of this previous cycle. And I said this after the spring game, and I don't say this lightly because the SEC only had 2 spots last year on the all-conference team. And you got to think one of those spots is going to go to Luther Burden if he stays healthy. I think Deion Burks can be all SEC this year, man. And I don't just say that because, well, he looked really good in the spring game and he looked great throughout the spring. I say that because what he brings to the table is exactly what this offense is going to need. They're looking for their deep threat. I think he's going to be their deep threat. They're looking for someone who can be a factor over the middle. I think Deion Burks can be a factor over the middle. They'd like to get some things with the young quarterback, some easy throws. Deion Burks is that guy. And that's why I think he has a chance to be all SEC, is because he's super explosive, but he's the best player that OU is going to have on offense this year. And he's just a type of wide receiver that's going to be very easy to get the ball to playing in that slot. He doesn't have to be situational. You can throw a wide receiver, a little bubble screen to him. You can throw a slant to him. You can throw the deep ball to him. He's going to be able to do all these different things. And I think that this is going to be an offense that wants to get the ball to Deion Burks as much as possible. So if you're just now trying to learn about OU as a team, start on offense with the wide receiver transfer from Purdue, Deion Burks. He's a star.
As far as Jackson Arnold goes, what do the folks around Oklahoma like about him? We've seen so many great quarterbacks at Oklahoma. Is Jackson Arnold going to be one of those names that we say, oh, this guy really left a mark on the Sooner program?
I think that can be the case. I'm not going to predict that he's better than Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray or anything crazy like that. But you asked, what do people like about Jackson Arnold around here? Well, he was a 5-star, and just the natural abilities, it shows out, man. Like, the arm strength is there. The athleticism is there. He had some turnovers in the Alamo Bowl, which were costly. But just watching him play quarterback, you say, okay, you see the natural ability that's there. The ceiling is very high. Do I think that he can be the next great at OU? I do, but maybe as crazy as it is to say, it may be more about the situation around him than maybe him, himself, because I think that he's got enough talent to be that type of player. My overall question with this team is, Chase, can they block up front on the offensive line?
Yeah.
Are they going to be able to run the ball consistently? When it's 3rd and 2 late in the game against Alabama, are they going to be able to run the ball and pick up 3 yards and move the sticks? OU's wide receivers will be really good. It's going to be the strength of their offense. And Jackson Arnold's going to have some high-level moments at quarterback, but he's also a first-year starter, and he's going to make some mistakes as well. Can they run the ball? Can they protect him long enough for him to really be successful? If those things are a yes, then I think Jackson Arnold can have a fantastic year. And maybe we're even talking about him being one of the 3-4 best quarterbacks in the SEC. But if the situation around him is not great as a first-year starter, there could be some struggles for him next year.
I want to move over to the defensive side of the ball. Brent Venables has made a career off some really good defenses. He's brought in Zach Alley to lead the defense. I'm more familiar with Zach Alley, I think, than maybe even a lot of Oklahoma folks are. I cover Jacksonville State. He's been at Jacksonville State. He is a great young defensive mind. I really like his style, and I think he's going to be a great fit. What are the pieces that he has on the defensive side of the ball?
By the way, Zach Alley is a mini Brent Venables. It's insane. Same mannerisms. They talk the same. I mean, you can tell that Zach Alley has hung out with Brent Venables for a long time. Yeah. So really excited about him. So you mentioned earlier you think the offense it's just going to look like they're not going to skip a beat. And I around here we hope that's the case. I think the defense is going to be the strength of this team. And honestly, man, like I know what the stats say last year, but if you go back and really watch the games from a year ago, I think the defense was the strength of the team a year ago. And I think that's going to be the case again this year. And again, I don't say this lightly, but I think this will be the best defense that OU's had in at least a decade. Now, the bar for that has not been very high recently. I mean, they've had some some of the worst defenses in school history, unfortunately, when you go back to the Lincoln Riley era. But they've got a linebacker he's a dude, Danny Stutzman. I mean, he's going to be on the short list for the Buckus Award to start the season. They got Billy Bowman at safety. I think he should have been a finalist for the Thorpe Award last year. I think he's going to be an early front runner for that Thorpe Award this year. And then the biggest news of the offseason, which happened a few weeks ago, they got Dominic Williams. They were the ones that got Dominic Williams from TCU in the transfer portal. This was a guy that was a freshman All-American at TCU the year the Horned Frogs went all the way to the national championship game. And that was big just to get him because OU's been missing that big-time interior piece really since Gerald McCoy was on campus about, 12, 13 years ago. But it was more of a signal to everyone like they're ready to play this NIL game because they beat out Texas. They beat out LSU. They beat out Missouri. I mean, they beat out some players when it comes to NIL. So this guy is immediate plug-and-play starter. It's going to be the best that OU's been in the secondary in a decade. It's the best they're going to be at linebacker in a decade. And I even think this is going to be the best defensive line they've had in a decade. Now, Brent Venables, one thing he's really done is he's built this defense, and he's really stacked it with a lot of depth. They're going to be counting on a couple of two true freshmen on the interior of the defensive line. One, David Stone, who was a 5-star at IMG last year, and the other was his teammate Jaden Jackson, who was a 4-star at IMG, but he was one of the bigger storylines. So I'm going to be very, very surprised if the defense isn't the strength of this team and a football team that we're saying, like, this team can play some defense. I mean, this is year 3 of the Brent Venables era. I don't think it should necessarily come as a surprise to anyone that Brent has built a good defense. I just think this is really the first year that it's going to show that, okay, that defensive mind who won a lot of games at Clemson and a lot of games at Oklahoma, you're starting to see a defense now that not only is their starting 11 good, they've got quality 2 deep across the board.
Yeah, good stuff. Exciting times ahead as Oklahoma Sooners joining the SEC, and it's going to be fun to see the Oklahoma in some SEC matchups. Tyler McComas, he hosts The Rush on KREV covering Oklahoma sports there. Tyler, really appreciate you coming on, talking some Oklahoma football. We will certainly be doing it again very soon, but thanks for your time today.
Yeah, man, anytime, Chase.
We will have you covered all things SEC sports here on Southeastern 14.